Welcome to Refreshing Leadership, where I help refresh your leadership in both life and work. This is about the stuff that actually works in the messy reality of real life, stress tested through thousands of coaching sessions. And this is particularly relevant today, actually, because we're in May, and for many of you, you will have made solid progress on your goals already this year. You've got momentum, you've got things in place, and you're not starting from zero. But energy can dip some point towards the middle of the year. Things can feel repetitive or effortful, or you just feel like you might question why you're doing things at all. So today I wanted to offer a slightly different take. We're not going to reset your goals, but just re-energize your relationship with them, or step back from them in a way that is both restful, joyful, but also really serves you and your future goals. Sometimes the most strategic thing is not pushing harder, but actually changing how you're engaging with the whole thing. So I am not a huge fan for my incredible high achievers who are highly competent. I'm not a huge fan of the phrase, follow the plan, not the mood. Because yes, okay, I understand when motivation is low and you're not used to achieving a lot of things, then you probably need to just bite the bullet and follow the plan. But when you're used to being able to achieve a lot, then actually listening and tuning into your intuition on things is worth doing. And if you are facing a point of slightly lower engagement or motivation, then I want to offer a few different ideas and ways to address that. So the first one is a goal-free period. Now, this doesn't need to be forever, but it is for a defined period of time. I experimented with this in the December of 2024, and then I actually did quite a lot of it in 2025 over the whole year. I found it to be very liberating as somebody who has been quite goal focused for a lot of my life and obviously work in the arena of goals with clients. It was very disorientating initially to go, oh, you have no goals, or what does it feel like to operate in the world without any goals? And I found that after the initial disorientation, incredibly liberating. And I went on goal-free walks where I felt I had more intuitive ideas, I felt more creative, and I felt more in line with the universe. And I experienced strange coincidences that I do think were part of being more unblocked when it came to my intuition and being more free-flowing. My word of the year last year was also surrender. So I think there was just a general sort of letting go vibe there that I was really embracing. Now, there is the classic experiment, which is often shown in business schools, where people are so focused on counting basketball passes, they're asked to watch a video with basketball passes, that they miss the big bear walking across the screen. And the lesson there, of course, is that we can get so focused on goal that we miss the glaring opportunity sometimes that might pass by. So whilst having goals can provide focus and it can sharpen your thinking, it can also narrow it at times. And I think it's important, therefore, to appreciate both and take time to step out of that even briefly to widen that field of vision again. So even if you have a goal-free period of like a walk in nature or a couple of weeks, a holiday, of course, is the perfect time. But let's say you actually do it as part of your real life. This could be very powerful for you. So I encourage you, if you've not done that, and if you, like me, are somebody that has always tended to have a goal or two up your sleeve, then, you know, I've given this a go. I had Steven Shapiro on the podcast, who wrote the book Goal Free Living. Go and have a listen to a couple of those episodes. We will link them in the show notes. But there is a lot behind this concept that I think can be really good for opening back up that creative aspect of our thinking. The second idea is about having a filler period, a filler season, or a filler month. And it's not necessarily about drifting and doing nothing, but it's a period where you're not pushing for big breakthroughs. You're kind of just getting by. So there's that element of like quiet quitting, or you're going through the motions, you're doing the bare minimum. And I'm not saying that we should go and do that. I'm not sure even what my thoughts are on quiet quitting, but you let go of having to optimize everything. Right? It's a more simple approach. You do what needs to be done. You're just living and you're letting things stabilize. Perhaps you're very good then at switching off at a particular hour of the day and putting your device in a box and really relaxing into your evening. Now, these can be absolute gold dust. Your energy settles, you start to enjoy things more, you start to get more on top of the basics of life, admin, routines, and quality time with people because you're not so distracted. So I really enjoy doing this now. I make a point of having some evenings where we've got a lockbox, we put the phone in there, and my kind of cue or my signal to be switched off is having a shower or a bath. I feel like that gives me a state change. And after that, I am in a more naturally relaxed mode and I'm more likely to do like some stretching, and I am less likely to be thinking about the things that I didn't get done in the day, because there's always that tendency, isn't there, to just get a couple more bits done. And that's very real. And sometimes those things are very important. So I'm not knocking them. But what I have noticed is when I know that I am trying to have that boundary at the end of the day, for example, I can get a little bit more efficient about knocking off the most important things and then switching off. So this can feel uncomfortable for higher achievers to have a filler period where you're just living, just getting by. I think it's that discomfort that is quite interesting. And also what can, if we're feeling a little bit burnt out, a little bit detached from life, it can bring that sense of enjoyment back into things. The third one, and I think this is a really powerful one, and it's something I've been talking about a little bit on my Substack, The Diary of an Executive Coach, is shifting into a systems-led phase. So this is where you have set your lifestyle up in a way that does move you naturally towards your goals without constantly having to think about them. So your business as usual takes you towards your goals, your needle moving goals. So you have designed your routines, your environment, your default, so that just by living a normalish week, right, just by kind of getting by, you're progressing anyway. So then you are not having to constantly cognitively check what you need to do to hit your goal. You just need to know whether you're following your system. And if your system is well designed, and by well designed, I don't mean the perfectly optimized one. I mean one that actually works with your personality and your energy, then that is enough. So taking the time, for example, to figure out what is a sequence of events in the morning that can stack up to a good morning routine. So I recently actually put all my little morning habits into order and in a tickable format. And I realized that having them in that order, because I've done them quite a few times now, I know what the easiest thing is. And I'm talking little things like I want to have some creatine after breakfast. And that is strategically upstairs because normally I happen to be upstairs when I think about that. However, some of my other supplements were not with it. And so now I've tried to move them all together so that it just all happens really quickly in one go. And so it's just about fine-tuning little things. And I have a few other steps that hopefully now they're in a good order. And actually just all I need to do is follow those and half the job is done. When you get into this position, it's easy to go, what, really? It's that easy? Just keep following and tweaking the system? But that's the bit when I think you can just step back mentally as well. You don't need to be in push mode. You can be almost like a passenger. Just follow it, allow the results to compound, and then stop and review. So that is the third idea. And you may feel like you do want to have those systems that are running in the background, that if you can just follow those, will take you towards your goals. And I'm very interested in that idea. And to kind of wrap it up is the idea of contraction. So we are very comfortable with expansion, more output, more activity, and that's really important. Most of us want some form of growth in our lives, right? But in the natural cycle of things, there is a natural pullback as well. So if you've had a few very full months on certain dimensions or a very full year, you may very intentionally need to put a period of lower intensity in. Now, some people that I coach, for example, my social workers, a lot of them were teachers before, and that was naturally baked into the teaching cycle because you had longer holidays. And then when they found themselves in the social work space, that is not baked into the way they do their work. And therefore, they need to take that responsibility because nobody's going to offer it to them. And that can come as a little bit of a shock. So taking the time to intentionally say, look, you've had an intensive period. Now it's going to be in your best interest to scale back can be very helpful. I had a lovely client recently tell me about how he wished last year he had done this because he had a really challenging year and he does have the ability to power through. But there came a point when he was operating in a blur and he did feel like he experienced some kind of a burnout. And that's not a place that you really want to get to, and much better to preemptively schedule a period of more contraction. And that could look like lots of different things. So obviously January and February are very good periods for that, where you can be more inward, have less going on socially, and lean into that hibernation. But we're in a busy phase now. And so it may be that, part of your weekend or some part of your week can give a nod to that contraction feeling so that you don't overextend and that you maintain your energy for the things that really matter to you. So I hope that has been an interesting way of thinking about how to refuel and re-energize, whether it is to give more later on to your goals or whether it's just to be able to stop, smell the roses, enjoy life and enjoy everything that you've already created, which I think is really important. You might have good systems in place, and this is a time to actually honor those and just run with them and let them do their work. So if this resonated, or if you think there's somebody that could benefit from this and that perhaps has been running, pretty fast on lots of dimensions, then please share this with them. You can also ask questions and comment now via the YouTube version of this or via Spotify. So I would love to hear from you there. Hopefully it's a little bit easier to interact that way rather than having to drop me an email or a message. And I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear any questions that you have. And I look forward to connecting with you next time. If you enjoyed this video, you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will be back with more career-related content soon.